You know, if we would, I don't know, watch tennis, she'd say, well, if I would have started as a kid, I would be better than anybody. If it was about music, literature, whatever, you know, her opinions about any topic would be better than anybody else's.
He felt significantly better than other people, even than his friends. They were the only people who had patience with him for, I think, unhealthy reasons, you know. But even them, he would look down on. He would look down on everyone. It's so lonely being the king of your castle, you know, like the king of the hill.
I constantly had to prove I was loyal, had to prove I loved him, had to prove he was the best man alive, and he would always come up with reasons why my love wasn't true and would randomly accuse me of things. And even before things happened, he would go like, I know you're going to do this or you're going to do that, and it would be something really, really bad that was quite the opposite of the person I am or what I would ever do. And I would ask him, do you have any idea who I am? But to him, he was always right and I was always wrong. He said he knew me better than I knew myself. So whenever he accused me of something, I had no right to defend myself. He was completely unable to see me for who I was and projected a lot of negativity onto me.
To me, she had the monopoly to the truth. Everything that she would say would be the truth. Her opinion would be the truth. So there was no discussing anything.
I stayed with him because I felt I had to, because my sense of self and identity was so intertwined with his that I felt like I would actually cease to exist without him. And that is how completely dysfunctional abuse can be. I felt helpless. I remember daydreaming about someone saving me because I felt I wasn't capable of doing it myself. As a grown woman, I was made to feel so worthless and useless that I felt like I couldn't even make a difference for myself in my own life. That's how insidious that abuse is. It just plants a seed and then it grows.
Many times I was at the point of leaving him and thinking, okay, this is it, I'm gonna go. But just at the moment I really wanted to get out, he would do something so nice, or he would come up to me for help, and sometimes he would even be crying and explaining how he was like a victim of his own behavior, like he was crying because he knew he had this anger problem and he had this,
People who have strong empathy and who are able to see the unrealized potential inside a psychopath may feel that they cannot leave that person because it's very difficult for them to be not loyal to someone, because they have very strong loyalty to people in general. And also, psychopaths are very good in triggering the caring instinct in people. And when people have a strong caring instinct, it also has a very strong grip on them. They feel that they have a moral duty to help this person. And in that way, you know, when they're in a relationship with this person, either a personal or a professional relationship, they are not able to abandon a lost cause.
It is very difficult to leave somebody who is asking you for help. So, and I didn't see that was a part of his manipulation. So whenever I was helping him, I felt safe, and also when he asked for help, I thought at the same time he was admitting like there is something wrong and he needs help and there is change. There's going to be the change for the better. So I thought, okay, so when I help him, I will only see this nice guy that I saw in the beginning. I will only see this nice part of him again, and all the abuse is gonna go away. Maybe it was very naive, but it sounded and seemed very sincere the way he presented it.
So because you're already not yourself anymore, don't have to trade anymore, and you don't know really what's going on, it's really hard to get out. And then a lot of times, when you do get out, the narcissist is not willing to let you go. Of course, it's all about power and control. So if the relationship is ending, the narcissist is losing the control over you. So that's something they can't cope with. So that's why they will keep on trying to get you back. And they're so good in all this acting that they will act like a prince again, and you remember the high feelings you had from the beginning of the relationship, and you always want that feeling back. So what's next thing will happen? That you think, well, maybe I didn't see it right, maybe I should try it again, and then there you go on again and again. And every time you go back, you will get weaker, so every time it's harder to get out.
She would call me from morning till night and leaving messages like this long about how I was so perfect for her, and she would even apologize for stuff that she did, and that I was right about everything, and that she needed help and she couldn't live without me, and I was her savior. And yeah, we were back right where we started in the beginning of the relationship. It was that thing again, like all lovey-dovey.
He'd keep sending me messages, or he'd make sure I knew that he had a new girlfriend within a week, obviously, because narcissists don't exist without supply. So he needed a new one immediately, and he made sure the news reached me. So he wanted to, in that way, kind of be on top of what I was doing by, you know, rather than the scene we were in was very small, so he would find out what I was doing via other people. He would look at all my socials, and I blocked him everywhere. But that's what he was trying to do, you know, just trying to stay in my life in that way, or trying to push my buttons in that way.
When he wanted me back, literally everything changed about him. I was no longer crazy for being a spiritual person. Now he liked it too. Everything I liked, he liked. He seemed very empathetic all of a sudden, talking about feelings, and he was crying when he told me how sorry he was for abusing me and that he wanted a second chance. He said that the new him would never do that. At that time, I didn't know as much about narcissism yet, and I thought, well, maybe he has changed. Maybe I should give him a second try. And just when I was getting close enough, he returned right back into his old abusive self. It was all a show, and he was already isolating me and setting me up against the new friends I had made after leaving him.
He did threaten me, but in a very, very mean way. I think the meanest way in which to threaten a woman, and that was sexually. He would, of course, if someone is super mean to you, you don't feel like having sex with them, which is, you know, like not rocket science that I didn't want to have sex with him. And then he would threaten me and say, if you don't want to do it, I'll find someone else who will, which he did. But obviously it's a very mean way to threaten a woman that's already very insecure.
When we were in the relationship, and there were some moments with her that she kind of showed her real self, and she said, watch out, I'm going to destroy you. I'm saving up stuff about you and I'm going to destroy you. And I just thought, oh, this is so sad. You know, there's something really, well, not wrong with her, but it's so sad that she has to say these kind of things. I didn't believe her, but at the end she did.
He would make threats like, if you ever leave me, I will destroy you, I will break you, I will call everybody and make sure nobody wants anything to do with you or wants to work with you ever again. And that's exactly what he did. I expected him to do it in that aggressive way, but he did it in like a very victimized way, like he was the victim, I was the evil person.
I found out that she was cheating on me with somebody. And on Facebook I saw that she was with that person in Mexico, I think. Of course I called a lot of times and I wrote her a letter and stuff, what's going on, you know? But then at the end I went to her house because I just wanted to know, did we break up? What the hell's happening? So I rang the door. She opened it real quick, she closed the door again. I was completely nervous and think, what just happened? So I went downstairs from the door of her apartment into the streets. Within 2 seconds, police officers show up. They handcuff me and take me to the station. And I was just sitting there, what happened? This is completely not true. And I read the report. And all the stuff that was in there was just nothing but lies, 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 and lies that she had been saving up for years, you know, with little pieces of emails of me, which she all collected and she fabricated a whole story around me, which they told me, you're going to be in jail for a really long time.
Yeah, he did a smear campaign, starting with calling people people he knew, people I knew, work-based people. He called my friends, and he was trying to set up everybody against me by saying things like, "Oh, you should know what she is saying about you," and he would tell like the craziest lies about me, the meanest and lowest things that you can possibly imagine. Like he would take this very tiny little bit out of a story, like a very painful story out of my childhood, for instance, or he would use a miscarriage I had and presented it in such a way that I looked very crazy or evil. And so he would use my deepest wounds against me in the smear campaign, and to make me look as if I was crazy.
The victims are usually devastated. They are ruined. They are ruined mentally. They are ruined physically also. There are physiological effects to trauma. They're traumatized, they're broken, they're wounded. They don't have time or inclination to present their case. They just want to lie in bed and withdraw. They're depressed clinically. They have anxiety disorders. They have mood disorders. I mean, the victims are devastated. Narcissist is untouched by the crisis because the narcissist has no emotions, no empathy, no nothing. Narcissist is a machine. So the narcissist goes on to present his version of events, which is expertly put together. He's a professional at storytelling. He presents himself as a victim, and there is no countervailing voice. The victim is too devastated to do anything about it and to present her side. The narcissist is the lone voice, usually, at the beginning. Not for the whole duration, but in the first few critical weeks, it's usually the narcissist is the lone voice. The victim is not heard. And that's the version that sticks.
Okay, I think that was what hit me the most, that from the starting of the relationship till the end, it was all one big film that she invented for herself, and she knew exactly what she was going to do. She was going to destroy me, and she knew that from day one. And she actually told me a couple of times.
During the smear campaign, I realized that he wasn't just telling his side of the story, he was trying to destroy me. He tried to ruin my reputation, my career, my friendships, and was basically trying to isolate me again by trying to take away my support system. And on top of that, he was smearing and playing victim on social media, stating that I was the one doing those things to him, even though I had been silent from the start.
So I guess the whole relationship is one big smear campaign. And of course, you know, the smaller smear things are on Facebook, where she put public posts like, watch out, my ex-boyfriend is going to try to do this and this and this to me. If he contacts any of my friends, please tell me so I can report it to the police, and he's harassing me and all of that bullshit. But the biggest thing was that whole one big story that she made up and throughout these years just to get me in jail. And she told me this before. She did it to her ex, you know, so I should have seen it coming, but that was a smack in the face like you wouldn't believe. Being in jail about a lie, you know, that really hurt me a lot.
They will tell lies about you. Very simple. The whole life is a lie, but they will tell lies about you and about the relationship. And bad things, they will make it up.
He was trying to make everybody he knew accomplice to the abuse, even though they had no idea they were doing it. But he had a best friend, and she knew what he was like. She is exactly like him, and she would, send emails to my friend, telling my friend to reconsider the friendship, tell the craziest lies. She would just repeat all the lies that he was telling about me, and she would just repeat them to anybody willing to listen.
So the smear campaign is the perfect proof that narcissists are not able to love. Because if you ever had a connection with someone like that, they won't. Normal people, normal mental, healthy people won't do that. They cannot talk so bad about you, even if there was a fight. And there will be some emotions, but not that big as with a narcissist.
Because a psychopath is not dependable, it may induce in his quarry hyper-alertness. Hyper-alertness is a result of the production of stress hormones. And ultimately, when we people are built to handle short periods of stress, not chronic stress. So when we are in chronic stress in the environment of somebody who is destructive most of the time, not dependable, it may be exhausting for us. So what you often see in people who become victims of psychopaths, that is that their energy level has gone down very much. And when the energy level goes down, when the vitality has been undermined, then all kinds of diseases can come up. You can develop chronic diseases that are due to a lack of vitality, that might be cancer, for instance, depression, burnout, and they might also be severely traumatized.
The abuse affected my health big time. I was diagnosed with complex PTSD, ME, I had panic attacks and sleeping problems that I never had before, and I was extremely exhausted, and my self-esteem was at the lowest level ever.
Anxiety, depression, I got a burnout, I lost weight, I started undereating, and then I started overeating. I was just overall incredibly unstable, mentally unstable. I felt physically sick also. I got sick a lot.
If your brain's in a healthy environment, there's expansion, there's growth, there's air. In an unhealthy, abusive environment, there's shrink. So your brain will get smaller, kind of. It's very simplistic told. And what does it mean? That you cannot think outside of the little circles. So your brain and your thoughts will be going around in circles. And it will all make you depressed, emotionally unstable, and it will continue as long as you're in this unhealthy environment. Everything in love will grow. It's also with your brain. Everything in fear will shrink. That's the same thing with the abuse.
My mental health was, I don't know, physically there was nothing wrong with me. I think so. But besides it, I slept a lot more than I used to. But mentally, I just, I used to be quite active in a lot of stuff, you know, social things, meeting friends, making music. I was making music all the time. After this happened, I just didn't care about anything anymore. I just stopped making music. I wasn't interested in the world anymore. So my mentally, I wasn't doing that great.
The damage done to the prey can be very deep. So it can be not only post-traumatic stress disorder, but also what is called moral injury, where there is damage to the core of a person. And what we often see also in people who have dealt with a psychopath for a long time, that is, they lose the ability to trust anyone. And so they lose the ability to be in a relationship.
So your brain needs to have some more expansion. If something like this happened to you, narcissistic abuse, to get out of the circles you're thinking, you need to expand in every possible way. So there's a lot of health things you can do to bring your brain back in a better situation. Like everything which is healthy for you in normal life is healthy for your brain. Like oxygen, water, training, nice environments, nature, whatever there is.
There was abuse in my childhood, and it geared me up for this relationship. It really did, because I think I subconsciously recognized his behavior and felt comfortable with it, because it was what I was used to. I was used to having my feelings ignored, having my emotions minimized. So even if it's unhealthy, if it's something you're used to, you're comfortable with it.
If you've had a nice childhood, a nice person is going to feel like home. Well, the same goes for abusers. If you've grown up with abusers, you feel attracted to this certain type of energy that abusers have. They're like unconscious patterns. It's not like you really choose for it. It's just they feel so familiar that you feel attracted to them.
I think my mom was a narcissist too, but a covert narcissist, so she wasn't grandiose, she was the opposite. She made herself extremely small so that everyone would flock around her with attention. Because my brothers were very sensitive to that, because I feel like boys and their moms have a different bond. They just wanted her happy, and she controlled them by like being this banshee, you know, but always being the victim, crying, how can you do this to your mother, you know?
My father, he was like a full-on narcissistic psychopath. Even though he was a person who would be very kind and friendly to the outside world, behind closed doors, he was like a monster. And because his abuse was so openly, I felt from a very young age like I don't need anything from this guy. Nothing good comes from this guy. So all my hopes as a child went to my mom. So I felt really close to my mom. So the damage done to me was much worse by my mom, because I didn't see it coming.
What I do blame her for is kind of not making sure me and my brothers had a good bond. She basically drove us apart by means of favoritism. They were a team and I was just an island.
She was very manipulative. She would set people up against each other. She would always criticize, belittle, laugh about other people behind their backs. Use the children and use the talents of children to make herself look good, but emotionally neglect the children. She would like have a favorite and make the other person or the other kid feel like less worthy, and the favorite child that would it would change. It wasn't the same person all the time.
I felt like in a lot of ways she was envious of me because I was a girl and I just did things. I was confident. I don't know where I got the confidence, but I was confident. I was very entrepreneurial. I did things even though no one helped me or no one supported me. And I felt like she was kind of envious of my drive that I got from literally nowhere because no one ever encouraged me to do anything. Yet here I was writing books and I was doing things, and I think she was kind of envious.
And when I learned about narcissism, I was finally able to understand my childhood, because earlier sometimes I would still get angry at my mom, thinking like, how could she do that to me? How could she be so insensitive or so mean to me? But once I learned about narcissism, and the one thing that narcissists don't have is empathy. So when I learned that she didn't have empathy and that it wasn't really her fault as well, because she was a victim too, I finally realized that it had nothing to do with me. And to me, that part, that it had nothing to do with me, was very important for my healing process.
I come from a loving family. I got everything that I ever wanted and all of that stuff, but I'm just completely naive. I grew up in an environment which was very safe, and when somebody tells me something, I believe them. I trust everybody. I trust everything all the time. So I guess if somebody sees a person like me, I'm an easy prey, because you can tell me anything and I'll believe you.
Looking back on it, the most important part of being a victim, victim, I hate the word, of being with a narcissist, is being codependent. You have to feel like your happiness and someone else's happiness can't exist next to each other, and it has to come from somewhere, from childhood. Maybe as a kid you were used to, ignoring your own sadness to bring the family together or make sure everyone else felt better, and you take that into adulthood. You try to say, it's kind of like savior syndrome. Like, if he's with me, if I love him enough, then it'll be fine. If I'm empathetic enough, if I'm patient enough, he'll be fine.
I went in therapy. I knew I had a problem with boundaries. I was too forgiving. I was too much of a people pleaser. I was always trying to keep the peace, even though I was harming myself as well. The more I stayed away from this person, and the more I learned about narcissism, because I had no idea what narcissism was. So I learned the traits, and I also learned that I had dealt with narcissistic people a lot. And so I saw a pattern there, and once I knew what the pattern was, I could break it. The moment I started to remove these type of people out of my life, I started to feel better. I started to feel happier. My health was improving. Every level of my life started to improve.
It was progress. In the beginning, I was just broken. I would look in the mirror and I would see no one I recognized, and my inner voice was replaced with his. So every time I looked at myself, I heard, "You are unattractive, you are dumb, you are like, I don't understand how anyone can handle being with you." That's what I heard for the longest of time. And what I did was not resist it. I would just sit in that feeling, not rejecting it, not fighting it. And then at some point I just knew logically that at some point, if you take it one day at a time, it'll get better. And I noticed when I didn't cry every morning, then okay, so that's done. Now we can work on what got you in this situation in the first place.
I find it a lot harder to trust people after this happened, because before that I was naive and I trusted everybody, and whatever somebody would say, I would think that's the truth and I would trust them. I don't do that anymore. Well, I have to rephrase that. I still do, but I noticed the red flags a lot sooner. I still trust people. I still believe what they say in the first, when I first hear it. But as soon as there's something off a little bit, the red flags go up, and I'm out. I don't want to have anything to do with these people anymore. I'm much more. I trust everybody, but as soon as they make one little mistake, that's it. I got a lot more sensitive. I notice the small things that are off.
It is a lot harder for me to trust people, especially because you simply can't guarantee yourself that you'll never meet another narcissist. But I just promised myself to really go with that gut feeling. Like, if I see signs of manipulation or of isolation, for instance, I'm not staying as long as I would have stayed earlier. In a relationship, you should feel like yourself. And my biggest sign that I'm dealing with a narcissist is that I'm feeling smaller, like I have to fight to be seen, you know? And in any case, that's not a healthy dynamic. So yeah, I've learned to choose for my own happiness. And as long as I can trust myself on making strong decisions, I'll be fine.
I wasn't given a lot, but I was given an extremely strong personality. I feel like the core of who I am has stayed the same. And I lost that for a second. I lost it. And after him, I just found it back again. Honestly, I just picked up where I left off with a healthier sense of self-worth, basically.
This is maybe strange, but I always felt it immediately after it happened, I felt this can be the worst thing that ever happened to me, or it can be the best thing that ever happened to me. And it turned out it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because it really made me rediscover myself in a way. And notice, because before I met her, I had a lot of friends, I did a lot of social things and blah, 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 I don't know. And that all went away when I was in a relationship, and afterwards I found out that I still have that, and my friends came back to me, and I am a good and a nice person, and for some reason I appreciated it a lot more after this thing happened.
If you had plans before, you'll have plans after. You know what I mean? If you were someone who is dedicated to making something out of themselves, you will. You might have to work through trauma, but you'll get there. So if a narcissist would see that I'm so much better now, they would probably say, see, I did that. That's what I did. It was good for something. It's so stupid.
Friends know not, lovers do. I met a different kind of you. Oh yeah. In a way, the perfect guy said he loved me until I died. But then, oh well. Didn't see jealousy was slowly suffocating me like, who is he and who's he to you? Wanted me to prove my love, no kind of proof